Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to Embrace the Unknown. I'm the host, Andrew Jones, current basketball player overseas. And this podcast is really about taking advantage of life's perspectives and trying to get it outside of your comfort zone. We'll be talking about a lot of pro overseas adversities, long distance relationships, mindset growth, and a little bit of basketball news along the way. If you are a hooper, an athlete, or someone just trying to level up in their playing field, this podcast is for you because nothing great happens in comfort. You have to embrace the unknown. So last week we talked about sacrifice, but today I want to dive into something a little different. This episode we're going to be talking about the real difference between overseas basketball and American basketball. Let's talk about it. Okay, right now there's a big narrative going around basketball, specifically overseas, and how they are closing the gap and could be surpassing the American players right now at the professional level and the collegiate level. Let's dive into the high school and collegiate level real quick. NIL has completely changed the recruiting and how players are approaching the collegiate game in America. I do believe college players deserve to be paid. Hell, I got paid even when I was in college. And if I would have stayed another year, I could have took more advantage of it, which I probably should have. But I do believe for the most part, the overseas kids, them being associated with professional clubs throughout their youth, kind of gives them an advantage from a standpoint of developing their game at a professional level, playing an NBA professional level style of basketball. And then also they get opportunities to sign contracts at young ages to play quote unquote professional basketball. And I think the NIL is trying to merge that gap between allowing our youth to be able to take advantage of their skill set early on, while the overseas kids get to, sign to these major clubs like Partizan, Olympiacos, and be able to play against grown men and make money. So I do believe that the NIL is going in the right direction. I just believe it needs a little bit more fine tuning. But so far, I think it's something that has benefited the game, but also hindered the game at the same time. Because in America, one thing that our youth rely on heavily is AAU programs, right? But a lot of these AAU programs aren't associated with any of the NBA teams. They're not associated with any of the professional high-level teams. And, that doesn't necessarily help the youth, but it kind of leaves them at somewhat of a disadvantage. However, the shoe circuit level has definitely skyrocketed the ability for these kids to get professional training, professional eyes on them early on, and also be able to showcase their talents. As a guy who got to play on a shoe circuit, I do believe that being on that level, being on that platform, definitely helped me as far as exposure, playing against the top talent in the country, and being able to showcase my abilities at a high level. Now, let's dive into the advantages and disadvantages that I see as far as playing in the States and playing overseas as far as a whole of the game, right? We're not talking about levels right now. We're just talking about style of play, right? And, most American game in which we see Anthony Edwards, John Morant, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, these guys, we have a flash to us. We have a swagger of American basketball that's full of athletes, nice isolation highlight plays. We have that shock factor to where we play the game with a lot of instincts, and we play the game with a lot of flair that attracts, the eye, and which gives us an advantage to kind of be creative on the basketball court, right? Opposed to the European game, it's a lot slower. But these players that I've noticed, they have really high IQs. They have a knowledge of the game that allows them to be great without necessarily having the most physical gifts as an American does. And the truth be told, that both sides have their advantages in my perspective. But, I can say for the most part, it depends on the style of play that each individual wants to play. And when I say that is like what I noticed from playing overseas, guys will be slower, guys won't be nowhere near as athletic, but they play the right way. Seeing some of these clubs and how they develop their kids, they're not really playing a lot of one-on-one. They really don't play a lot of pickup. A lot of it is really teaching the fundamental drive, kick, make the one more extra pass, shoot if open, making pick and rolls, So that type of game is allowing them to at least compete, because where they lack in athleticism and one-on-one ability, they make up with being able to make the right play or make the right decision every time down the court. And the one thing I can say about the European basketball is that at a young age, they're playing with shot clocks. I think the circuit is starting to play with shot clocks now. I know California does. I know a lot of the shoe circuits are starting to play with shot clocks with like 30 seconds, which is very good. That's very progressive as far as changing how how our youth is developing for the college level and for the NBA level if they have the chance. But in Europe, bro, they're playing with 24-second shot clocks since they're like 12 years old. So that type of advantage right there gives them the advantage to be able to learn how to play and make quick decisions with the shot clock, and be able to play fast but not rushed, and be able to make those, quick decisions on the pick and roll, the extra pass, late game management, understanding the whole nuances of the game. And from my side of American basketball, what I've seen, especially in some of the AAU, it's just a lot of open gym, one-on-one. And in my opinion, like I can't lie, like I grew up with that type of play style. That type of play style fit me. And we have an advantage. If you're able to handle the ball and you're able to blow by and go by the defender at your will, that's an advantage. That's a unique skill that us American players have when it comes to our approach to the game. And once you're able to use your one-on-one or natural-born instincts and athleticism to be able to score and create for others around you, and be able to make precise passes, extra one more reads, being aggressive on defense, that's when I feel that like the American game has its advantages, because as for me, when I came overseas, I had a very American style game. I wanted to play one-on-one. I wanted the ball to be in my hand. I'm trying to get 30 every night. And where I noticed a big growth of my game is understanding how to play the whole game. Understanding how that like scoring isn't always just the main focal point that these coaches look for when they start recruiting players. And being able to score within a system, being able to score efficiently, and knowing when to pick your chances to go one-on-one and picking the isolation situations. Like that part of basketball is what's really allowing me to grow, and I feel that would help the Americans when it comes to the early stages of development. Now from the European side, like I've seen some good athletes during my time over here. I can say that like they have some speed, some real strength and athleticism. But the one thing I've noticed is that like if the European style of play of kind of this structured, methodical game, when those players develop and become, athletic and start to have some of that individual flair to them, that's when I start to see a lot of the players start to have like some serious talent, because they've already installed the discipline, the unselfishness, to make the right play into their kids early on. So the ones that get to really develop that individual identity of the type of player that they will be, that's when you start to see like the Luka Doncic, the Jokic, the Wembys of the world, and even like the Giannis's. And so that leads me to the professional level and what European coaches look for, and because they love our style of play, believe it or not, like they love having good Americans that can go out there and when the play breaks down, they know that hey, we can put the ball in this guy's hands and he can go create and make something out of nothing, right? But it has a specific quality that these coaches look for that they know that will complement the organization. You have a couple different brands of scorers and playmakers. You got that scorer that's like, look, man, I just want to go out here, give me the ball, give me 20, get out the way, and we're gonna live and die whatever I do. It works in some cases. Some places overseas like that, but at a higher level, they like players that can create but be efficient and not slow down or be ball stoppers within the offense. And how I see it, and that leads me to how to get contracts overseas, and how to thrive at a high level. The one thing that I've noticed that coaches look for when trying to sign a player, a rookie, or a veteran is character. They always evaluate us Americans or whoever they decide to sign is about their character and the person that they are on and off the court, and it also their mental capacity to sustain a long season overseas, a long season that's going to be overly demanding on their body and on their mental. And they really look for players that can be mentally tough and have that type of presence game in and game out, day after day in each practice. And the next thing would be, does their game translate to winning? And how high of an IQ do they have of the game? A lot of people come overseas and they just want to average so many points and they don't really want to win, or they just chase the bag and don't really want to climb that ladder. And to each his own, right? But from what I've noticed is that having a translatable game that fits high-level systems to where you make everybody else around you is a big factor in when coaches are recruiting and trying to sign these players to some big contracts. And the last thing that I noticed is just work ethic and professionalism. Are you getting extra shots up on your own? Are you seeing the physio? Are you going to physical therapy? Are you taking care of your body on and off the court? Are you always out every weekend and not taking your game serious, or are you just doing the bare minimum? If practice starts at 6 o'clock, are you showing up at 5:55? It sounds annoying, it sounds childish, it sounds like something like that doesn't really go into basketball, but like when these coaches are looking to build a roster for the club, for the fans that they want to put on, like they want to show the product that they want to show their fans. These are like small factors that play a big big decision in if you're gonna get that contract, because you could be head over heels better in every aspect of a player, right? In two different profiles. You could be better than him, score better than him, be more tall and athletic. But this guy's character, how he approaches the game, is a lot more professional than you. They might take their loss on getting this super skilled guy who could be, a John McQueen, or could be somebody that could be a bad locker room guy, and they'll take the good character guy. Like, trust me, I've seen it in my experience, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's something just to be mindful of. And that segues into when I say being efficient, and what I see as far as like how Europeans are highly efficient in the NBA. And some of the current top 4 players, quote unquote, that they try to say that in the NBA right now are European. And the names I mentioned, Luka, Jokic, Giannis, and Wemby, and why they have so much value over the last few years when it comes to the NBA is because they're bringing a different level of professionalism. They're bringing a different level of IQ to the game that they have already been taught at a younger age. The collegiate game right now is a 30-second shot clock, it's a little slower. So it's only a few of those players that get drafted have the potential and have the NBA readiness to jump into another situation like the NBA. And a lot of things is, for the most part, low egos. Jokic is a low ego guy. Giannis and Wemby, those guys don't really have any like big egos when it comes to like, I'm the franchise, everything runs through me. I feel like they have like a very team first mindset. And if they are the star and they are the best scorer, great. But for the most part, I feel like they do a lot of things that these NBA teams like when it comes to being a team first type of guy. But then I also realize that our young talent that's in the league right now, Kate Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, Ja Morant, we have a lot of these guys that are becoming big stars in our league. And I feel like their personality, their swagger is what makes them different. So, I mean, I feel like this whole podcast today was basically not saying one side is bigger than the other, but it's more about perspective on what is currently going on. And I want to be able to challenge those who may feel different. What are other people's thoughts when it comes to the European game, and why the narrative has shifted to these young players are coming into the game more developed, or is that narrative just false and are American just still head over heels better than a lot of the European talent? And a lot of these questions, these conversations allows you to embrace the unknown, and when it comes to the youth, your professional career, and me, myself, as overseas. So it's one of those things that, it's going to be an ongoing question. The game is evolving across the world. Obviously, Europe is becoming a better and more popular sport as far as basketball, because now NBA is having a European league, So it's one of those deals like, how is that going to affect the European market, the NBA market, where you see a lot of guys who are in the G League who already leave and become European players for contract reasons and pay reasons. Does this NBA Europe bridge that gap to where you allow those players who spend 5-6 years in the G League making the bare minimum, if anything, get a chance to go over there and maximize their full potential and still be able to have the NBA tag? For now, nobody really knows how the situation is going to work, even if it actually transpires. But for the most part, it's something to kind of keep an eye on when it comes to the evolution of this basketball game. That is all for today. I really hope y'all enjoyed this podcast. Thank y'all again for tuning in, and I'll see y'all on the next episode.